With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Friends and family, how you doing? Today we are jumping in with Dr. Mark Sherwood. Mark is a naturopathic doctor. Dr. Mark, alongside his wife Michelle, run the Functional Medical Institute. That is a full-time wellness-based medical practice in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Dr. Mark has completed extensive training and certifications in areas such as age management, functional medicine, stress management, peptides, hormone optimization, and more. He is a retired 24-year veteran of the Tulsa Police Department and a former member of the SWAT team. Guys, he and his wife have a broad social media presence. In fact, their first movie that they produced, Fork Your Diet, had over 15 million minutes viewed worldwide, and that's available on Amazon. This was a fabulous interview, and one thing Dr. Mark and I share is the love of molecular hydrogen. I sought him out because I watched him walk through the selective antioxidant pathways of hydrogen in the body. And I was fascinated. He was so well-spoken and so articulate. And so Dr. Mark and I are going to drop in and we're going to discuss a technology that is the Lourdes Hydrofix Premium Edition. So this is a very unique technology. It produces molecular hydrogen using a process called Separate Chamber Electrolysis. The Hydrofix produces the longest-lasting, most stable, pH-neutral, non-toxic, and natural hydrogen on the market. This technology is a game changer, and we're both fans of where these tools fit into the day-to-day. And how do you take this extra energy, this selective antioxidant capacity, and embody it into a purpose-driven life? Friends, as a beautiful blessing on the podcast, there is a code, Beautifully Broken. If you want to check out the Lourdes Premium Hydrofix Edition, there'll be a link in the show notes, but you can get a great discount on the technology using code Beautifully Broken. Let's drop into the conversation.
Welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel, and on this show we explore the survivor's journey, practitioners making a difference, and the therapeutic treatments and transformational technology that allow the body to heal itself. Witness the inspiration we gain by navigating the human experience with grace, humility, and a healthy dose of mistakes. Because part of being human is being beautifully broken.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. We're going to get going, but before we do, I have to mention a product that I've been talking about for over 6 months. This is Silver Biotics, Silver Sol Technology, which is a technological play on silver, but they've coated it with a silver oxide that can steal thousands of electrons. This particle that Silver Biotics has invented is AG404, which makes this supplement hungry for electrons. If you've listened to this podcast in the past, you know when something can take electrons away from the bad guys or the pathogens, your immune system is going to operate better. So I use their immune support daily. I have not had a cold since I've started doing this. It's been over 6.5 months. The other product they make that I absolutely am in love with is their toothpaste. Your mouth and gums feel fresh and pink. It's very, very effective. And this has been validated by one of my favorite biological dentists, Dr. Gene Sambataro. The other thing that I have to tell you is they have a burn cream. Now, I wouldn't tell you that I needed a burn cream. However, I was just in Maui, and the fair-skinned individual that I am, I was blessed to have this and would literally watch a sunburn melt away after an hour because the cooling effect of this burn cream was amazing. So check it out. They are offering this podcast 30% off on any of their products using the code Beautifully Broken. So check that out today. The other sponsor I just want to mention and shed a little love on is LightPath LED. This is my favorite light company. Red light therapy is shown to be beneficial to every cell in the body, helping to release nitric oxide and increase microcirculation and increase ATP, which is the energy currency of the cell. LightPath makes one of the best lights on the market because, in my opinion, they use pulsed frequencies. They have the most robust warranty on the market, and people are so happy when they get this thing in their home and they start their day with 10 to 20 minutes of red light therapy. It increases joy, it helps with mood, it helps with chronic pain. There's really not a losing case here, so check that out. Same code, Beautifully Broken. And last but not least, I gotta give some big love to AMD Ion Cleanse, which is an ionic foot bath, which, yes, I know, Freddie, you got a little woo-woo on me, but it's not. You put your feet in water, you put in the ion plates, and both negative and positively charged ions are added to the body. What does the body do with these ions? It binds and forms covalent bonds with metals, toxins, biotoxins, mold, and through studies over 3 to 4 months, we can watch levels of environmental toxicity like glyphosate. Glyphosate is a weed killer that you don't want in your tissues. It affects everything in a bad way. And again, you're noticing a theme here. Energy, electrons, light, the stealing of electrons. Team, I align with these companies and these sponsors because they work, they're effective, they're affordable, and they do the good deeds. So check them out. When you shed love on them and their shopping carts, you shed love on this podcast. That's it for now. Let's jump in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. Today, we are joined with Dr. Mark Sherwood. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, Freddie, thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to meeting you and being on your podcast.
Me too. It's funny how the universe places like wonderful people at the right time, at the right moment, just when you're seeking out that information. And we were connected through our friends over at Holy Hydrogen. So I think that kind of leads us into what we may talk about.
Yeah, for sure. They are great people at Holy Hydrogen. I met them probably 2 years ago, and we immediately hit it off. I realized they had a great heart to help people. And of course, that drew me to them anyway, because my wife and we have an extensive background in helping people for the last really 40 years apiece between us.
Yeah, I'll jump right in. I caught your presentation on YouTube as far as walking through the pathways of free radical management of molecular stress and superoxide dismutase. And I won't rattle the audience's brain with all these terms that they're like, what is Freddie going to jump into? But it was really thorough, Mark, the process of how the body is set up with pathways to naturally manage inflammation and free radical damage. And I thought it was so empowering because a lot of times we go into the health container and it's like, oh, I need this and I need this and I need this. And the way you walk through all those pathways, which I'll link the video, it's very empowering. You're like, wait, I have systems to manage everything that is a stressor to my body.
We do, and that's very correct. People's mindsets today, Freddie, is really going the wrong direction. I'll give you, for example, and then get to the comment I have with you on your comment. First of all, when you go to the doctor, the question that we're asking of the doctor is, doctor, can you tell me or find out what's wrong with me? Well, okay, that may be a good question, but it's limited, because when you look at what's wrong with a person and you neglect what is right with a person, I suspect you're going to find something wrong if you keep looking enough. For those that are married out here, don't try this, but I'm using this to paint a picture and prove a point. With your spouse or with your significant other, just spend the whole day one day asking them to tell you what's wrong with you and to find something really hard and fast and secure that what's wrong with you, and just have that conversation at the end of the day. And I bet you that you're going to have a miserable day, because ultimately, if you look hard enough, you're going to find something wrong. On the flip side, if you observe what may not be functional, find out the reason, and then also observe what happens to be functioning very well and make it function better, many times you're going to get a brand new, completely different perspective of what's going on in your health and life. And that's really the way the human body is, Freddie. It's not something that is designed to really break down as prematurely as it is. It's really something that's designed to live more than a century by organ systems, And so we have really kind of lost our direction on this, and we need to kind of get it back. And so people that see my wife and I really from all around the country and world, it's fascinating. We start talking about this kind of concept, this kind of critical thinking, and kind of blows their mind. But I think it also opens their minds to possibilities of hope and healing.
Yeah, I totally agree. So if we passed each other on the street and I said, well, Dr. Mark, what do you do? How do you help people? Because you mentioned I've got 40 years of background doing this with my wife.
Well, we have one simple mission statement. We lead people down a pathway of true healing. And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But I think we all understand that America today is growing diseases faster than we're growing people. We have the same top two diseases today as we had 70 years ago. That would be heart disease and cancer, respectively. We have disease trends that are out of control as far as obesity, the fastest growing non-communicable disease in history. We have type 2 diabetes ravishing our country, these cardiometabolic diseases. We have 1 in 2 persons walking around adult-wise that are insulin resistant now and probably don't even know it. We have 1 in 3 children right now that are going to be on medication for type 2 diabetes by the time they're 40. And finally, big shocker, autism was 1 in 40,000 40 years ago. Today, it's 1 in less than 40. Trends continue, simple math, simple statistics there. By the time we get to 2050, it'll be 1 in 2. We have a disaster on our hands, and it seems that this is the elephant in the room that no one wants to deal with. And so we've been beating this brick wall for a long time, my wife and I, and we're going to keep at it. My wife is an osteopath, and I'm a naturopath, and she's also a naturopath as well, but we have a large staff, and the hardest thing we have to do is training people to think differently, including the clinicians that work with us, because we know that all training within the medical concept and systems is driven by big pharma, which basically, I'm not knocking big pharma, but it's basically find the symptoms and correlate that with an algorithm toward the right medication. And that is not getting people well.
Yeah, it's challenging some of the things that make our country so wonderful, like capitalism. You can see that it is a driving mechanism around look at a subset of the population who's challenged, come up with a solution, sell it, and it's a thriving business because we've got this ever-growing business model. So I do understand it, and I don't fault always the processes. Like, oh, there's this great phrase that I had someone give me the other day, like a big pharma, the institution, it's a functionary of the system that's in place. They're not bad, but it's a functionary of this wave of what we've created. So stepping back one and re-engineering that, and really, how do we make people thirsty for a new paradigm that is some degree of what I always say is radical ownership of your health? And I imagine that's something that you and your wife are very passionate about. And I'd love to hear how you might do that with somebody. How do you make them thirsty for health?
Well, first of all, most people, and I was, prior to becoming a naturopath, I was a police officer for like 2 decades. And a lot of people don't know that, but, I would actually put handcuffs on people and take them to jail. But one of the lessons I learned as a police officer and even a SWAT team officer was a lesson I learned from one of the persons I arrested one day. Because it wasn't the first time I'd arrested this person. It was multiple times. And he kept doing the same things over and over again. And I couldn't understand it. And I couldn't get it through my thick skull why he kept repeating the same things, knowing full well he was going to end up right back in the same place that he started. And, I treated people right, Freddie. I didn't treat them horribly because, man, really only by the grace of God do I sit here and they sit there. It's just the way it was, right?
Yes.
And so I asked him one day, I said, why do you keep doing the same things? We were driving to jail. I'll never forget this. He was sitting in my front seat of my car, handcuffs behind his back, and calm as he could be, And he goes, Mark, you mind if I call you Mark? And I'm like, okay, whatever. Because in those days, I was known as Sergeant Sherwood, right? So or he would call me Sarge sometimes. But And he said, Mark, he said, I don't think you understand. And I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, I do. You're in handcuffs, you're going to jail, and here we go back again. And you're going to just pay a bunch of money that you don't have, and there's going to be more warrants out for your arrest. You're going to go right back here again. And he said, when I go down here, and even if I end up in prison, I know where I am. I know what I'm going to eat. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to wear. My schedule is made for me. I know what time I'm going to eat. And I don't have to worry about anything. It's got structure to it. May not be the best place in the world, but I'm comfortable there. And out here, it's hard. Nobody tells me how to live out here. Nobody shows me how to live out here. And I don't know how to live out here because this has been foreign to me for most of my life. As you know, I've been locked up most of my life. So I go back to where I'm comfortable. And, I sat back on that, Fred, and I was like, wow, man, I mean, that's pretty profound. And then I apply that to today. I think that most people are not thirsty for health because they don't know what it is. And frankly, they're too scared to get out there and try something different. Food addiction today is the most notorious addiction in the history of our land. We have within our foodstuffs, right? We have the addiction to the processed sugars, which drives these dopaminergic pathways. We have addiction to the altered proteins and casein protein, which is in dairy, and some of the wheat proteins, gliadin and gluten specifically, that create these chemical compounds called exorphins, which sounds like the word morphine. They bind on to our opioid receptors and they make us feel good. They give us temporary relief of pain, and that's why they're called comfort foods. That's why restaurants choose to feed you breads and grains and rolls and chips and all this, and they tell you things in commercials like, I bet you can't eat just one. Remember the famous chip commercial? Yeah. So this is part of who we are right now, and we've got so used to living in this box of bondage that we don't know what health is like. And Freddie, I said something the other night in a presentation, and I thought, well, people were laughing on one hand, it was almost crying on the other. If you go to your doctor and the doctor doesn't talk about food, lifestyle, sleep, stress management, exercise, getting excess fat tissue off the frame, reducing known causes of systemic chronic inflammation, and all they do is get you in there, reconcile your medications, give you a drug, you didn't go see a doctor. You went to a drug dealer. And It's true. It's true. And so all that said, long answer to a short question, the way to get people to taste back to health is to build a trust relationship with them, give them the vision back, give them the hope back. And when they get the vision and the hope back, they can see possibility again. And most people are blocked from possibility because they've been in the jail cell too long.
Yeah, it's so true. It's a great example in reframing that for people. We're too far in the well to understand that we don't understand what vitality and good health and a good steward, I think is what I'm hearing from you. We don't understand what that model looks like, and it's rare. It is increasingly rare. So, I would love to say we could all, stumble up, and sometimes it happens. People stumble across an interview like this.
Yep.
They hear it. Something says, oh my God, that's me. And they do make a change. But if you're not that person, Google is not always your friend. YouTube is not always your friend. Podcasts are not always your friend. Sometimes we get led astray. So it's almost like I go back to this idea of how do we establish some sort of an operating principle and really understand the body. So I ask people, it's like there's so much of this work that you can do at home and through your day-to-day lifestyle practices, the water we drink, which we're going to talk about, the food we eat, the time we spend in nature, the way we engage with people. And like you said, it's like be empathetic and deeply understanding that everybody else has walked a different path. And for me, when we start to do 5 or 6 of these, the body's going to change. It has no choice.
Mm-hmm.
It has no choice. So, Mark, if we can pivot to water for a little bit, as I said, I watched that presentation and I looked at the way the body has all these different mechanisms to mitigate inflammation and manage free radical damage. The dangers are, again, with this paradigm of a pill for every ill, it can equally be a supplement for every ill, right? We can walk out of our naturopathic or osteopath or chiropractor's office with a bag of hope of all the supplements that are going to make me good in a few months. And we know how that turns out.
Well, it doesn't turn out very well, other than getting yourself your own storage shed out back to put all the supplements in there that are recommended for you. A simple principle, Freddie, is this: you can't out supplement, out exercise, out pray, or out pill a bad diet. You can't do it. It's that profound. Many times supplements can be sold. And remember, the FDA with supplements, etc., anything is fair game, even a lie, as long as they don't claim to treat, cure, or prevent disease. So what does that mean? That means that, let's say, you were some celebrity and somebody went to you and said, Freddie, I'm going to give you $5,000 a month if you will get out here and do videos that say product A helped you. Well, you could do that. And it might be totally lie. Maybe you never took it, you don't care, but you're making your $5,000 a month and the company is selling product. And that is perfectly legal. So in the supplement industry, it's $152 billion a year. And there's all kinds of stuff out there. And I would submit, based upon the statistics that I just talked about, if it was so good and we were so smart and supplements solved the problem, then why are we so sick? And why are we so fat? And why are we so beat down? And why are we growing diseases faster than we grow people? It's because supplements aren't bad. It's the paradigm in which we have put them in, and it's the box we put them in. Supplements should be nothing more than supplementing an already good diet, what the good diet cannot give. It should never mean supplanting something from the diet. And like, I'm going to take this and live like hell and expect this to work. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's profound wisdom. And the example I love is that if you could imagine your body being the system of pipes and drainage tubes, and they were all blocked, would it really matter if you were eating organic food or candy bars? You have a blocked septic system in the body and it's all fermenting. It's it's a big one.
It is. And, like the GI system, Hippocrates, known as the father of medicine, he said a couple of profound things. He said, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. He also talked about health beginning in the gut. He talked about disease beginning in the colon. And really, he was oversimplifying things, but it was actually pretty true, because if you think about this, the GI system is really the entry point to the entire physiological system. We bring something in our mouth. It's really a closed system from mouth to anus, and yet we have the ability to break it down, sort of disassociate it from its original bolus, separate what we want to keep from what we want to waste, and we allow what we want to keep coming across the membrane into the bloodstream to be transported down to the cell, to get inside the cell, to get inside the mitochondria, to drive the systems of the body. So if the GI system is messed up, there's no telling what or anything is getting down to the cell level. So our body is extremely unique in its ability to adjust, overcome, heal, repair, regenerate, restore. It does all of those things. And many of those things, frankly, we don't understand and will not understand. And I'm okay with that. But all I know is it's amazing we're alive today as human beings with the toxic pollutant environment we have right now, which we breathe, which what we drink, with what we eat, with what we're exposed to in our homes, cleaners, all the material that we put against us and on us, and yet we're still here. There is something profound about the human body that is extraordinary. And so with our detox system, our antioxidant systems, these systems are amazing, and they always are structured so that we can do what? Live. So our systems and our bodies did not need supplements way back when to survive, or we wouldn't be having this conversation. There's something there about the human body that is so extraordinary that it's able to fix, repair itself if we give it the right information, which is generally the food, water, rest, and exercise component.
Yeah. And what you just described, we really do function like a computer.
Oh, yeah.
Or those who created computers understood the mechanism in which the body functions. And it's it's this quantum computer, as you said, mouth to anus is outside world, but we're taking food and energy and water and we're processing these down into information for the cell to thrive.
That's right.
So it's really isn't, it's just so incredible. And I like you, the longer I'm in the container of health and wellness, the more apprehension I have to saying this supplement or that, or even that it's good or bad. I understand on a deep level that most of the time I don't know because, and I remember, getting into health the first time you're like, oh my God, look at what Linus Pauling did with vitamin C.
Yeah.
And so become, it goes from vitamin C to glutathione to NAD to methylene blue and all these. It can just be overwhelming. Now, I'm lucky enough to have stumbled into like robust health after going through metastatic cancer and Lyme disease and all those fun labels, robust health. So on the other side, I do have things that I do today that I have a clear, discernible shift. And one of those is the quality of water that I drink.
Yeah.
And I say for everybody out there, I hope you're just drinking water as your primary means of hydration. I have water. I have a couple mineral things that are balanced correctly that I absolutely love. But then you can take it a couple steps further and you could do something like molecular hydrogen in your water. And that for me has been something that just seeing my own ability to, the thing I'll say is like when I'm having an off day and I add hydrogen into the mix, it's not as off. If I don't sleep well, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, today's sort of fine. Even though I look at my sleep patterns on my Oura Ring or my BioStrap and I'm like, those aren't ideal, but I'm like kind of doing okay. Yeah.
I look at my Oura Ring every day and I'm actually, right now in this glass, believe it or not, I do have hydrogen water. I drink it every day. There you go. And it's honestly, it's something because like, Freddie, people don't understand the importance of water. First of all, principle number one is water should be your drink of choice. I mean, that's a no-brainer. We're mostly water anyway. So just, folks, give your body some water and make sure if you want to have a cup of coffee or two a day, fine, go ahead. But don't let coffee or certainly alcohol become your drink of choice, or not sodas, because that is not substances you should be drinking. But with that said, our current water systems, regardless of hydrogen, our current water systems are not healthy for the human body because currently in our multiple city water systems, we don't filter out many of these estrogenic compounds and even medications. Many studies have confirmed that water today, not only does it have a lot of fluoride, which is an endocrine disruptor, but it has many medications such as birth control, estrogenic compounds, and even statin drugs, which are given to people like candy these days. And so no wonder we have today men have lower testosterone quicker. Ladies reach menopause quicker. Ladies are having more instances of breast cancer, and all-cause cancer is climbing so rapidly that, Freddie, I predict in the next decade it will cross, for the first time in history, heart disease and become America's number one killer of our people. And it's in part caused by the water we drink. Every time we go in and take a bath and our pores open and that water comes in, there you go, a chemical bath that creates massive amounts of inflammation, massive amounts of cellular damage through free radical damage, and the beat goes on. And when you get a cell that has been damaged and is irreparable, and the body's not able to sort of function with its ability to correct, repair, or destroy, that cell can become a rogue cell that can create a life of its own, become a cellular entity, become a tumor, become a cancer, and become metastatic. And so it's really an interesting phenomenon what we created in America. It's a disease model is what it is. It's not a wellness model.
Yeah. So how is the water that you and I are both sipping on this morning providing support for that inflammatory cascade that we do live in, right? This is, I want to also say, we're sort of speaking out of both sides of our mouth because we're saying, yes, you can just have like a clean diet and a clean lifestyle and that should be good. And then we also have to say the world that you and I live in, it's full of these micro stressors. And so we have to think a little bit outside of the box.
So there's two ways to look at this. And I want people to catch this. Neither inflammation or free radicals are bad. We need to get a hard stop right there and quit categorizing inflammation and free radicals as bad. They have their purposes, and the purposes are defined by the human body. Perhaps we don't know all the purposes, but I can tell you a couple of purposes. For inflammation, for example, is when the body is exposed to a virus, a bacteria, a fungi, yeast, protozoa, any sort of pathogen, even tissue injury through exercise or working out, or injury through some kind of accident. The immune system recognizes that as something to deal with, your internal sort of system of security. And it signals the body that there is an emergency, and it starts this healing process. Part of that signaling modality is inflammatory signals. So we know we have to have inflammation to create the signaling capacity to initiate the healing process. We also know that too much inflammation becomes chronic and systemic. That's like having your military stretched out across the world and they don't have enough weaponry, and eventually your defenses go down. Free radicals, on the other hand, are created in this whole process of living. When we breathe, when we speak, when we're on a podcast like this, even when we pick up this glass and sip, I'm creating free radicals just because that's what I do when I exert cellular expenditure of energy, ATP, which is produced in the mitochondria. Pretty exciting. So there is purposes for free radicals, like superoxide, like hydrogen peroxide. There is purposes for those things. There really is. And we must not think that that's a bad thing. However, just like inflammation, if those things continue to go out of control and they're not dealt with, not chopped in half, not converted back into water or oxygen or both, we have a problem. And we get free radical accumulated damage. So we can have chronic systemic inflammation, chronic accumulated free radical damage. And guess what? They feed each other. Chronic accumulative free radical damage can feed more inflammation because it's actually a destructive thing that's happening to the cells, right? And the majority of our free radical damage occurs inside of the mitochondria, which, for those people that are listening, a little simple biology lesson again, the mitochondria is your powerhouse of the cell. In other words, it's your refinery of the cell. So if the refinery of the cell, which produces your cellular energy or currency called ATP, begins to get damaged, the cell's going to get damaged. So we have to have this balancing effect within the mitochondria that makes it work efficiently to continue to produce energy, continue to, yes, produce free radicals, but continue to have a system that doesn't allow and deals with the ability of free radicals to excessively build up. And frankly, our body has these enzymes that are coded or made from our genetic material that's in our nucleus of our cells. You mentioned a couple of those at the outset of our broadcast. When the body produces, even when the detox system is cued because of a toxin, when the immune system is cued because of a virus, when the immune system is cued because of tissue injury, anytime we go out and exercise, as part of that creation of energy process, we get free radicals. They happen inside of this mitochondria. And then when they're produced, the first one that's produced is called superoxide, right? And it is a free radical. And it actually does some jobs because it actually is purposeful for a time because it's got to deal with things, right? But then superoxide can be converted, it should be converted into something called hydrogen peroxide. People are like, well, hydrogen peroxide, that's the stuff you used to put on cuts and you'd see it bubble, right? That's the stuff you could put on your hair and turn it white. Well, I think that we understand a lesson there. Perhaps if you got hydrogen peroxide buildup, you might become premature gray. It's the aging of the body, isn't it? Right. So superoxide can become hydrogen peroxide, and it also has a purpose. It actually can become something that deals with viruses. Isn't that cool? Unless it gets built up too high. And if it goes up too high, those two things can combine together. And then we have this thing that's developed called a hydroxyl radical, which is also a free radical. But guess what? It has no really known purpose at all. other than to create destruction. It can destroy our ability to create neurotransmitters, making us depressed. It can create damage to cellular constructs and compounds, leading to heart disease. It can lead to high blood pressure, arterial stiffening, and it becomes a huge problem. And the body is not supposed to have a load of this thing called hydroxyl radical. But the body, thankfully, in the gut produces a little bit of this wonderful gas that we're actually drinking today in water called hydrogen. But many times if the oxidative load gets too much, Freddie, we don't get enough hydrogen produced and the beat goes on. We can see where we're going with this. But now we have a tool that is used mainstream in the country of Japan. It's used in increasing frequency in America, but I don't think we're ever going to get there, quite frankly, because it's outside of the system. So don't take what I'm saying and go to your doctor folks and say, hey, can you prescribe me hydrogen? Because they're going to look at you like you've lost your mind, and they're going to call it bunk science. But ultimately, our biochemistry tells us that if we can get hydrogen in the system, and we can because it's a very small molecule, and we can take it through our water or we can inhale it through a cannula, we can actually get it in our system and selectively, keyword, selectively diminish those hydroxyl radicals that may get created as part of the normal course of business. And we turn those things back into water, which is effective and healthy for the human body. So all that said, the water we drink and how we infuse that with hydrogen is incredibly important to long health and truly and remarkable way to manage the biological aging process. And one other thing I'll say, people out there listening, with the idea of, do I need hydrogen water into my normal course of business? Well, 100% yes, everybody does. I mean, we were doing this well before I ever met the guys at Holy Hydrogen. But here's the thing. How many out there have been to your 15 or 20 year high school reunion? Now, wow, it kind of ages me because I've been to like a few of those, right?
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, you go to those things about 20 years later and you're like, my God, that person looks old, right? Or you're like, man, they don't look a day over 20. They still look the same they did in high school. What is that? Folks, it's called free radical damage. It's the hardness of life. The harder life has been, the less it's been able to be resilient and become resilient, the more you'll show that. Premature graying, premature wrinkles, premature aging, cellular destruction, damage to your cellular functions, damage to your mitochondria, damage to cells, low energy, body fat accumulation, muscle loss, lack of muscle retention, and even brain fog, even GI dysfunction. Because if we can't repair our GI system, again, Hippocrates said that we would get disease, and well, he's right. But that is kind of how I use hydrogen every day. I use it when I get up. I've been to the gym today. I use it post-workout. I use it during the day, and I use it before bed because I'm an active guy, and I want to make sure that my body is performing and doing what it's supposed to do and not subjecting itself to more damage than it's supposed to have.
Yeah. Mark, I heard you say a couple things that I just want to speak to. You use the term selective a few times, selective antioxidants. So when I think of hydrogen, I've come to understand that it is intuitive by nature.
Yeah.
And as far as imagining the body is in the state of chronic overinflammation, it can bring it down. But I've also heard people speak to the property that if those systems are underactive, that it can help lift it up a little bit and bring it into a baseline. So it's almost like this intuitive, smart molecule that is giving you what you need, which is, we can go into a supplement store and I'm like, oh, I'm going to buy this, just take vitamin C, for example. It's pretty much it's going to work on the same pathways as everybody. So how does it have this ability to function that way in the body? It's kind of amazing.
Well, I think it's natural to humanity. We live and drink this thing called H2O. What is the H? Well, it's hydrogen, right? We understand that hydrogen, being the smallest molecule, is part of life. It's a gas that's part of who we are, and we produce it inside. So being the very idea that it's produced inside, we got to draw the conclusion that it's produced for a reason. So there's a reason that it's produced inside. Everything that's happened inside the human body, there's a reason. It's not like you just go in and whack out the gallbladder because it has no function. Everything, every chemical, every compound that is produced, and even free radicals have a function. The inflammation pathway, those signals have a function. So hydrogen, being a natural production component of the body, has a function, and it's always been that way. But the problem is we live in a world now where there's so much damage coming at us, so much damage from this thing called the standard American Western diet, that we simply can't keep up. So when you bring in hydrogen once again and supply it from a natural standpoint through water, through air that we breathe, the body takes that in and it looks at that like resupplying what was lost. And then it now does what it's supposed to do. So all we're doing is bringing it in. Now that differs significantly from the idea of antioxidants that we take in from the outside, because we take in an antioxidant from the outside with the idea that we're going to help our antioxidant system, right? But ultimately, this has been shown time and time again. If antioxidants are taken post-workout, it doesn't really help us recover, because the body from a natural standpoint is going to work better than an artificially exogenously oriented or exogenously started standpoint. So hydrogen, really, we get assimilated into our cells once again, and it does what it's supposed to do. Because it's natural, it has the ability to do what it's always done. Even before we knew what it was supposed to do, big point, it was doing what it's always done. And I think that if we can kind of get that out there, I'm not saying the antioxidants are bad or anything like that, but I'm saying if you want your system to really be able to have, it's almost like acting like herbal adaptogen. It's able to bring you into balance. Like there is a unique system of the body. It's called NRF2. And then the body NRF2, when we get an oxidation process that is occurred naturally in the body signals NRF2 to release the body's antioxidant regulatory element. Now, that is a system that's designed to deal with the pro-oxidants on its own. Guess what hydrogen can signal? Hydrogen can signal that NRF2 factor to release our own, key point, our own antioxidant regulatory element, which deals with the free radicals. So any way you look at it, hydrogen is used and it works because it is a natural substance of the body, as opposed to just bringing in some kind of supplement from the outside. Because how do supplements get in here? They have to come in the same GI tract again that may or may not be working, and they have to be extracted, they have to be assimilated, they have to be transported and reassimilated back into the cells. I don't know about you, but I'd rather have something that gets right to the cells immediately. It's able to transpose itself across cell membranes, because hydrogen can do that. And it works because it is already in the body.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And that's why I feel the results, when I do this or I breathe the gas. I mean, I know you said you're drinking hydrogen this morning. Do you ever use the nasal cannula to breathe hydrogen gas?
I do. When I'm sitting by the computer, I will plug that thing in and put it in my nose. I mean, I know I look funny doing that, but I encourage people to do this. I've dealt with this for a long, long time. This is back before I knew the, I'll just say it, the holy hydrogen machine that they use. I like it because it's titanium. It doesn't push metals into the manufacturing. It looks like a coffee pot, and it works really well. I plug it in that thing, and I run a pot over the night. It's ready for me in the morning. Then I'll do another pot, and I'll have it ready for me today. And I do that over and over again every day. But ultimately, before that, I was actually using hydrogen in these little tabs, and I would throw it in my water and let it dissolve like an Alka-Seltzer. But it turned my water just to kind of a dingy gray. And I know there were other things in there, but I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And so it's like, at least we were doing this because it made biochemically sense. And so, very few people, 6, 7, 8 years ago were even doing that. And I remember when I was talking about hydrogen, even some of our colleagues, which are, they think we're kind of on the edge, they would say, well, that's not been proven by science. Well, lo and behold, now go to PubMed, type in hydrogen, Type in hydrogen that has effect on cancers, on free radicals, and you're going to be blown away. You're going to see thousands and thousands of studies that are now confirming, and it's not earth-shattering information to me. They're confirming what the body already knew. And so if people are bored, go out there and do that, because I've dealt with people, Freddie, that have had cancer issues, that have had no issues. And it doesn't matter who they are. I recommend hydrogen for every single one of them, because I think it's that important for life. It's the most smallest basic structure of life. It's important for cellular health. And if we don't have cellular health, guess what? We die.
Yeah. Yeah. I was wondering if you could speak to a little bit of the longevity aspect. You were saying the body makes hydrogen naturally in the large intestine. I believe there are some studies in Japan looking at the internal production of hydrogen in, I want to say the large intestine, correct? As the body separates carbohydrates, the hydrogen from a carb. And I want to say, do you know what I'm talking about? There was a really good one that looked at like longevity based off the gas produced.
Well, obviously, we know as we age, the efficiency of the system goes down, doesn't it? You know, we produce less of what we should have, and we produce more of what we don't want to have. It's sort of this aging process, or let's even call it a dying process. But here's the thing. We tend to look at our aging process based upon a calendar and upon our watch and upon time. And, you know, I look at my life and I look at my chronological age and I'm like, man, I'm coming up on 60. What is that? You know, what is that? And it just wears on me, you know, like, stop a minute. I don't even want to look at that. But then I think there's a more viable aging metric called biological aging. And now a lot of people don't do this, but we actually have multiple tests that can test our biological aging processes. And I'm going to give people statistics right now in my wife and I's lives, because I can do that, right? Mm-hmm. We have ways to test our biological aging pace. We have ways to test our biological age, actual age, our external age, our internal age. And we have ways to test our biological immune system age. Now, having said that, when we started checking those things, this is way back when we started using hydrogen among our other protocols. You know, our biological age went from just a couple of years under our chronological age to 4 or 5 years under in pace of our chronological age. And people can go, oh, does that mean? Yes, it means that I'm aging at a less pace than the calendar tells me I'm aging. So my biological age is aging less than my chronological age. But get this, and this is really important, with the immune age that we can measure, my wife and I's immune age right now is in the 20s. The 20s. And it's because I believe we have included hydrogen among other protocols within our system, and it's not hard to do. Everybody can do it in their home. You do not need a doctor's prescription to do hydrogen. It has no negative effects. People are like, well, can I do that? Yes, you can. Should I do that? Yes, you should. And it's for everybody. It's for healthy people. It's for non-healthy people. Athletes that are listening, please hear me. I've got some of our high-level professional athletes using hydrogen. Now, they can't like get out there and endorse it because it's not mainstream, but they use it and it works. I've got a golfer that walks around and he drinks it while he's on the course, you know, and I'm like, cool. And he actually does pretty well at that game, right? And he's in his late 40s. He's still on the PGA Tour. Isn't that cool? He's able to go out there and play and hit the ball over 300 yards on his drive. So there is a lot of benefits to this. And all we're doing, Freddie, is bringing something back in that is becoming less in production. In other words, we're bringing back in a biologically plausible, beneficial environment for the slowing down and really, I call it normalization of the biological aging speed.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Mark. One thing you said, you love how easy it is to get in, especially with a Lourdes, because it looks like a coffee pot. So that was one in my quest for seeking out different systems, because if you jump on Google and you start looking up hydrogen devices, you're going to see hundreds. Yeah. And so it really becomes, it's like, and you're going to probably have a system that works the best for everybody. You know, you're going to find one that works for you, price point, and you're going to have trade-offs as you change investment levels and strategies. And there is this usability factor, like that I've noticed specifically from this one. It's literally like filling your coffee pot, and that is pretty much it. So if I were to tell my parents, who are getting up in age now, they're in their 70s, this might be a good water machine, I would have no worries about them being able to fill the machine. and that's not always the way. So I'd love if you could speak to that aspect, the simplicity, and then a little bit on the design and the mechanism of action, because this system is different than other systems, is how it separates the hydrogen from the oxygen.
Well, first of all, with the second question, the titanium structure and the way it actually infuses hydrogen in the water is completely different. Some of the products out there you see on Amazon, you could go Google this thing, and truly, they will produce hydrogen, but they'll also produce other chemical elements in the water. Unknown what, maybe other heavy metals. All I know is I want to get the right level of hydrogen in the water and nothing else. So I want a purified product. I don't want something that's cheap. I'm not going to cut corners with my water. I'm not going to do it because, again, it's the profound amount of water that makes up our system. So in other words, you think about investing in a system, I'm thinking about investing in my body system. So I'm not thinking about just investing in a water filter. I'm thinking about investing in the human temple, the body here. That's what makes me think about that. And so this system is completely different. I'm a hard sell because what we've done, and we get approached a lot of times by people that, well, they want to sell us something because basically they want us to be their pack mules. And that's the way that works, right?
Sure.
And it's the way it is. That's life 101, business 101. You want somebody to get an influencer and get them to carry your pack mule so you can make money, and they can too. But I don't do what I do for money. I do it because it's the right thing to do. And I believe money follows truth. And I believe that health also follows truth. And so this system is high grade titanium manufacturer. It's simple. All you're going to do is go in there and plug it in. Who can't do that? You're going to fill the pot up with water, and it goes to the top. You're going to make sure this little backfill is full, and that's easy to do because it tells you when it is not, because it won't run. And then you push a button, and it takes 30 minutes to blend, well over a liter of this. And then all you do is pour it and drink it. I don't know how much easier that you can get than that. As to the price points, you can get cheaper stuff out there, but you can also buy cheaper cars. How long do they run? You can also buy cheaper blending machines. How long do they run? I look at this as the Vitamix of water, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but when I buy something, I'm going to invest without batting an eye because it's going to last me the test of time. When I invest in my health, I need to look at not just short-term, but long-term return on that investment. And the greatest investment people can give, Freddie, I believe, in today's world with all the chaos and drama and trauma going on and uncertainty, wherever you stand in the world, wherever you sit politically or geopolitically, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is the greatest investment you can give is in your health. Because if you have your health, you have the ability to think critically and clearly and make the best decisions for you and your family. But you can't do that when you're in ill health because ill health is the great distractor. It takes away your ability to think. It takes away the ability to make decisions. And it frankly can financially strap you. So the investment you make in the right machine, and that's why, the Lourdes Hydrofix is the one that I like. It's the one that I use. It's the one that I've told our patients to use all around the world because I believe in it. I use it. I do it. And I think pretty much everybody listening should do the same thing.
Yeah. Like you said, it's the barrier to entry as far as like ease of use is wonderful. And that's what we need. The people that we mentioned in the beginning of the show that are eating candy bars and still drinking soda, like this would be a huge, huge upgrade. And it's
And one thing I want to say too, just to make sure people, there are tablets you can get out there, but those tablets typically going to cost, $2, $3, $4 a piece sometimes. And so if you think about a tablet filling up 10, 12 ounces of water, and you should be drinking 3 or 4 ounces of water a day. I mean, within that 3 or 4 servings of the hydrogen water, I should say, you're going to be saving money on this. So do the math, go out there and calculate, $15 a day over 365 days and just see what that says.
Yeah.
And you're going to go, oh my God, I don't need to be doing that.
Yeah. Beautiful, Mark. I know you have a hard stop, but I just want to ask you one more question.
Sure.
The Beautifully Broken podcast, putting the pieces back together, or maybe where the cracks are where the light comes in. What does it mean to you to be beautifully broken?
When I look at my life and the times that I've had hard times and the times that I've had cracks in my foundation show up because of life and because of my own dumb choices, I look at it as an opportunity. It keeps me humble. It keeps me understanding that, I've got room to grow. I've got room to work, and I've got room to improve. And so the greatest thing that's happened in my life personally, and it may not be the answer you were looking for, but it is the truth, is to having a brokenness about me that's allowed me to be in a place where I can empathize and sympathize with people so that we can relate together to help one another. I don't have it all figured out, but I do know that I'm capable of anything good and anything bad. And that keeps me grounded in a way that allows me to be, as you stated, beautifully broken, not afraid to say I'm sorry, not afraid to say I'm wrong, and not afraid to say I'm improved every day. And I try to keep that attitude every day going forward. And if we can do that, if we can keep that attitude going forward, we are open to learn and open to earn some lessons in life that will carry us forward. And so we can continue this process of helping one another.
It's beautiful. Dr. Mark Sherwood, thank you for being a guest on the show.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Freddie. I appreciate it.
Yeah, big love.
Ladies and gentlemen, you and I are moving on a 4-year relationship. That's got to be some kind of a record. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, head over to Apple or Spotify and please give us a review. I know how busy you are. I know you got a list of things to do that's a mile long, but it makes more people across the world hear this mission. And one more ask before you go. There's a way that you and I can continue learning. There's a way that you and I can continue to deepen the relationship that started in this episode. You could visit beautifully.broken.world and you can check out our brand new website and store. Listed are all the wellness tools, the supplements, the articles backed by scientific protocols to move forward into wellness, the products that I am using and I personally love. Most of them offer a significant discount by clicking the link or using the code. And the beautiful part? They don't cost you anything extra, and at the same time, they do support the show. Now, we have another new feature alert. I don't want to overwhelm you, but if you want to see the beautiful faces of our guests, if you want to watch me unbox and review products, head over to our brand new YouTube channel, Beautifully Broken World. This last message is from my vast team of internet lawyers. The information on this podcast is for educational purposes only. By listening, you agree not to use the information found here as medical advice to treat any medical condition in yourself or others. Always consult your own physician for any medical issues that you might be having. Our closing. The world is shifting. We need you at your very best. So take the steps today to always be upgrading. Remember, while life is pain, putting the fractured pieces back together is a beautiful process. I love you. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel.